sustainability has gained truly undeniable traction in recent years. Sustainability and green financing instruments have boundless potential to make a dramatic, positive impact on environmental issues. So we are pleased, of course, that many of you are joining us today. Most of you standing on your feet just so you could lend an ear on today's gathering, and we promise to make it a very interesting afternoon for all of you. Arthaland is the foremost sustainable developer in the Philippines. It has the distinction of being the only Philippine developer whose portfolio is comprised entirely of green developments as certified under the LEED program of the USGBC and the Verde program of the Philippine Green Building Council. Now, given this, and to support its strong growth trajectory, Arthaland is in the midst of preparing for a public offering of up to 3 billion pesos ASEAN Green Bonds, which will be the first tranche of a total of 6 billion pesos shelf registration of ASEAN Green Bonds. While there have been a number of green bond offerings by other Philippine companies, this will be the first ASEAN Green Bond offering from a non-bank corporate issuer in the Philippines. Can we give that a round of applause, please? And for this very exercise, Arthaland has tapped BDO Capital and ING Bank as the joint lead underwriters. Shall we hear more? Of course, from who else? Beginning first with Arthaland's Vice Chairman and President, a round of applause for Mr. Jaime C. Gonzalez, please.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I just wanted to say a few words about Arthaland and our focus on sustainability. Clearly, the greatest challenge in the world that the world faces today is global warming and climate change. And this is the reason why our company's unwavering commitment to sustainable development. All of our projects are dual certified, and today are dual certified, and in the future will likewise be dual certified by the Philippine Green Building Council. And Ed Sabidong, who's the chairman, will make sure that we abide by this. And also under the Verde program. And we are proud of the award we received last October when this building, Arthaland Century Pacific Tower, was awarded the world's first EDGE Zero Carbon certificate by the International Finance Corp, a member of the World Bank Group. So we were the first one in the world to be given this certification. So this building today is the only triple certified project in the Philippines, having received the EDGE Zero Carbon, the LEED Platinum, and the Verde 5-star, the highest and most prestigious categories in the said green building rating standards. We are pursuing both Verde and LEED certifications because we want to address both local and global sustainability issues. While EDGE allows us to further commit ourselves to the equally important goal of net zero carbon. And we have to thank Jane here of IFC for helping us on this one. According to the World Bank, buildings account for 19% of world emissions today, and this is projected to double in the next couple of decades. And we're just trying to do what little we can do to help reduce this, and hopefully others will follow suit. But we, in fact, extend our programs beyond the boundaries of development by creating programs that assist and positively affect the communities around our project sites. It's not only the development, but also the communities that live around our developments. We share, help educate, and spread awareness on the importance of sustainability practices through small and consistent steps that practices programs such as waste reduction, composting, vertical gardening, and recycling program. And this is something that Ed Sabidong has been very good in pursuing in our big project in Cebu, the Cebu Exchange. No? Likewise, during the operations of our buildings, the integrity of our sustainability features are maintained to perform as expected and as designed through the practices of our property management company, Emera Property Management, our wholly owned subsidiary. So we're really committed to this thing. It's costing us money, but it's not an expense. It's really an investment in the future. And it's an investment in the future of our grandchildren and beyond that. No? And I think it's well worth the money. Of course, I tell our people that they just have to be more efficient as well. The other thing is we're also continuing to improve our policies to better align with the UN sustainability goals, which is also something very important. So with our collaboration with the Philippine Green Building Council, the US Green Building Council, and the IFC of the World Bank, we have placed not only the Arthaland not only in the Philippines, but also globally in the forefront of the initiative to address climate change and the pressing challenges to the environment. And this ASEAN Green Bond is just one additional step that we're doing, consistent with our commitment on sustainability. And I'd like to thank all of you for attending this reception this evening, and we hope to continue to work closely with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's talk money, let's talk environment, let's talk sustainability. But before we get to that, how about we hear from our joint lead underwriters, beginning with BDO Capital Investment Corporation's President, Mr. Ed Francisco. Ladies and gentlemen.
And the other great institutions are here, and we look forward to that. Just some reminders, we hope to price next week, and then we hope to issue end of the month. No? Intentionally, we had, when Hans and I were discussing this, we asked permission from the management of the team, and they wholeheartedly agreed that we push it back to first week of December. First week of January instead of pushing it late December because people were focused on the Christmas season. Then unfortunately, with all the climate events happening with Australia and the stuff, I guess it shows also why sustainability bonds are very important. What I just wanted to also share was that in a way, this is like sort of a reunion because from BDO's perspective, we were the first issuer of green bonds with the help of IFC. And IFC also invested in us before. And then because we learned working with IFC, we're working now on a corporate. And then hopefully this will be the first corporate. And then also, we also helped with AC's International Dollar Bond. So I guess it just shows it's just spreading because while it will be challenges still, I guess today to get economic benefits from issuing green and sustainable. No, it's not yet there, but there are other benefits. No, it's really helping, and as Jimmy said, it's sometimes even going green is a cost, but we look at it as an investment because some of these things may not necessarily be recouped immediately. But anyway, the next, after Hans discusses the framework, I'll leave that to him. But what's great is I'm here really to listen to the panel discussion because we'd like to hear the views from developers, tenants, etc. So at least you also see why you're participating and why you're investing in the bonds will help the market. No? So with that, we thank you. We look forward to your participation in investment. As mentioned, we're hoping to close the 3 billion. And then, of course, there's a second part later on. So we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. And as usual, bringing in the rear, I'll just have to, I guess, say a few more words, hopefully to add to what Ed was saying. And if you give me a few minutes, I wanted to talk a little bit about the green finance framework of Arthaland, which you may or may not be quite familiar with. And let me just let you know the following. So first, the green finance framework of Arthaland is in accordance with the highest green financing standards from the ASEAN, the Asia Pacific Loan Market Association, and the International Capital Market Association. So this green finance framework is overarching and provides the basis for any financing option, such as the ASEAN Green Bond or loans by, if I say Arthaland, and which can be denominated in pesos or in any other currency. So the framework reinforces Arthaland's unwavering commitment to the highest standards of sustainable developments within the industry And it's, as mentioned earlier, this is prevalent in its end-to-end development of projects, which is shown by getting at least a dual green building certification for their projects. Additionally, as part of governance, they had actually set up a dedicated sustainability committee, which has been formed to evaluate and select eligible projects and to monitor the eligible asset portfolio. And to enhance sustainability disclosures and provide investors with dedicated reporting and even more transparency, Arthaland has committed to further disclosures as part of allocation and impact reporting for the green debt instruments. I'd also like to add that an independent international provider of ESG research and services called Vigeo Eiris of France is looking to make, is basically the third-party reviewer that has been tapped to review and provide an independent opinion on this framework. And they've actually given the highest level of rating for Arthaland's green finance framework. I would say that given all of this, one of the things that ING shares, I think, with Arthaland is really this view towards a focus on green environment as well as the sustainability features of what we should be pursuing as a corporate. And in fact, to give you a sense, just yesterday, ING, our headquarters in Amsterdam, actually moved to a building that was actually rated the highest level by the BREEAM rating. And interestingly enough, we here in the Philippines are actually moving into this building, not just as a sign of support, but basically it allows us to actually demonstrate what we talk about, being part of the green and the sustainable movement. So we're very, very happy to be here. So I guess by next week, you can find us on the 8th, on the 22nd floor. We're on the 8th floor. And along with that, we're very happy to participate in this transaction with Arthaland, or for Arthaland. Thank you.
We will be hearing from the perspective of a third-party real estate developer, which has gone through the same process of offering green instruments. For this, we invited Ashley Hegland, Sustainability Advisor of Swire Properties of Hong Kong, which has likewise completed his own green bond offering. By the way, a little background on Swire. By the way, hi Ashley, you're actually already seen.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
I'll tell them a bit about Swire Properties first, shall I? Ashley
Yes, please,
Hegland.
thanks.
Hegland is the Sustainability Advisor of Swire Properties. Swire is a publicly listed company on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and is a leading developer of commercial, retail, hotel, and residential properties internationally. To start things off,
Nice.
please do tell us about the sustainable projects of Swire Properties. I know I named a few, but when did these developments start and how many are in your portfolio?
Sure. Thanks again, everyone, for having me via video conference. I appreciate it. And I'm so excited to hear about Arthaland and the work that's being done over there. Fantastic. Swire Properties has been working on sustainable development for 20 plus years. They're one of the leaders in green building development in the Hong Kong market from the late 1990s. And we're really focused on the green building movement that was happening in the real estate sector in Hong Kong and Greater China. And in the past, I'd say 5 years, have really doubled down on their investments in sustainable development, expanding just beyond the hardware, what we call the hardware of green buildings, and really expanding that into the hardware and the software, meaning how we work with our tenants to reduce emissions and how we work with our tenants to reduce impact, as well as how we engage with other partners to have a greater effect and greater impact. So in 2016, there was a new sustainable development strategy called SD 2030, in which we set some very aggressive targets. One of them that's noteworthy is that we've just committed to a science-based carbon reduction target, which has just been approved a few months ago. So we have very ambitious goals to reduce carbon and energy and our environmental impacts. And the sustainable financing, what we call sustainable financing, is a critically important part to that package. So it covers all of our global operations that are in Greater China, as well as in that we have an asset in Miami, Florida, in the USA. And it's a global commitment where we will endeavor to dramatically reduce our impacts on the environment across all of our portfolio.
Wow. So again, this has been going on for the past 20 years for you, but in the last 5 years, your growth in your portfolio has actually doubled, you said, in the past
Yes.
5 years. So when it comes to Swire Properties' commitment to sustainability, then it will be continuing, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. It will be continuing. We are just about to complete our 2025 and 2030 commitments on reductions, and they will be publishing those in January next year. And so as a result, yeah, this is absolutely not going to stop. In fact, it's going to accelerate. We are finding now that there's competitive advantage reasons to invest in this area. I think it's true that this is an investment, but we do see a great deal of benefit. We see that our tenants are increasingly asking us to demonstrate that we are improving our environmental performance over time. And what we anticipate, and I think this is the theme of the talk today, is we actually think that if we do this well, we believe that the markets are going to come around and start to reflect that in pricing. And that, I think, links to our green bond. And then actually, we did the green bond. We issued our first green bond in January 2018. So it was exactly 2 years ago. And then last year, we also had a vehicle, what we called an ESG or sustainability linked loan, which is another interesting debt financing vehicle. So we're exploring different ways that we can finance this. And we definitely are seeing some pure business benefits from doing this.
Okay, so you already mentioned the green bond issuance, which was a year or two ago. So do tell us, kindly provide the key terms of the offer, of how you went about it, and of course, even the use of your proceeds, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it was a $500 million bond. It was a 3.5% coupon rate, which is due over 10 years, 2028. In fact, to your point, we have already spent most of those proceeds. There's a massive new redevelopment happening here in Hong Kong called Taikoo Redevelopment in our kind of signature area here, and is massively investing in environmental as well as wellness and increasing the wellness factor within this development, where we've got a new park, and all these proceeds from the bond were being directed largely to that area. We're also directing some of the proceeds to other energy efficiency initiatives that are around different portfolios of ours, but a large bulk of the proceeds were directed towards the new development here in Hong Kong. And in fact, we'll be issuing just this month our impact report, because as part of our green bond framework, we have to report every 12 months on how the proceeds are being used and what the impact has been. And what you'll find in that forthcoming report, is that we've basically spent the proceeds, and it's been a very positive experience for us.
Okay, so you talked about, of course, focusing on energy, even wellness. You're going to that direction, I see.
Yep.
But what has been Swire Properties' motivation, other than reducing carbon? So far, that's what you've been touching on. Reduction of carbon, energy, and wellness. What other motivations do you have for issuing green financing versus plain vanilla financing, like non-green instruments?
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, and look, if you look at from pure commercial terms, you're going to have roughly equivalent, pretty comparable on the commercial side. But we found that there are a number of benefits. I'll just name a few. So the first one is what we had a hypothesis that this would enable us and help us to expand our investor base. And we absolutely found that to be the case, particularly from European investors, who we know are very interested in this space. But we were very surprised at the degree to which we were able to expand that investor base and to get a little bit of a profile for us for European investors. Okay. So we found that to be surprising more than what we kind of had expected. So there's that benefit. There's definitely a government relations aspect to it. We are definitely supportive of Hong Kong and Greater China and trying to develop more sustainable capital markets. And there are a number of initiatives happening in Hong Kong, for example, that point in that direction. So we wanted to be a leader and to support their efforts to green the capital markets in Hong Kong. One of the ways we did that was we were the first company at the time to do a pre-issuance stage certification under something called the Hong Kong Quality Assurance Agency, HKQAA, which was basically part of the work with our green bond framework in the early stages. And as Arthaland did as well, we also had a third party to review our green bond framework as well. That one was out of Canada called Sustainalytics. So that was another reason on the government side. And then finally, I would just mention, certainly there's an element around just marketing our leadership position in sustainability. We've been investing a great deal for many years, and we wanted to let more people know the degree to which and how serious we are taking sustainability and how we believe it's a core part of our business.
Other than the European investors that you mentioned, how is the green bond issued actually received by other markets, by your market? Who were the key investors who participated in the offer, and what was their motivation in participating?
Yeah, well, look, I think that in Europe, this is a topic that's quite far advanced. We know that particularly in the Northern European nations, there's a great deal of interest in this topic. And, you know, if you're looking at institutional investors, they want to ensure that their capital is being deployed towards more sustainable projects if they can. And I think what's happening, frankly, is that we're starting to have data now that suggests and demonstrates that organizations, companies that are investing in more sustainable projects are actually outperforming the market. So from their perspective, it's de-risking their investment and at the same time investing in what they believe from their values perspective is important. So we had a range of interest from Europe. We actually had a fair bit of interest in Asia as well. So we were very happy with the mix, but we were definitely feeling that it helped put us a bit more on the radar over in Europe and other markets. And I think the fact that, and I think there was a comment earlier about Arthaland, you know, ensuring that they're aligned with the ICMA green bond framework, to ensure that gives the confidence that this is, you know, of a global standard, and that really helped from the global and the European perspective.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Christophe, why are green developments important? First, on a global scale, for multinational locators, for both commercial and residential developments. Why is it important for them? And what are the attractions for tenants who locate in green buildings? What do you think?
I think the drive is almost, in parallel to what Ashley was explaining to us with his green bond, is driven by international companies. First of all, take the Philippines, the biggest tenant or the major tenant. In the early days, were international. They were looking for space and came to the Philippines. But also, there is a strong component of the CSR of all these companies. The shareholders are driving the investment agenda. They're driving it from a financial point of view into companies like Swire, and there's also driving and impacting their subsidiaries in all the countries around the world. I can take my example. We moved to a new office a few months ago. My business case would not be approved if I didn't go into a green building of some sort. It's not necessary to be fully certified, but it has to have a component of green certification. And I think the other aspect is it has to have a future life. It's not only the certification per se, is how you live and operate in a building afterwards, which is mainly driven by international. We have local tenants today who are asking for green building space. This is more on the office side. On the resi, it's a more an individual emotional decision, but there is a extremely high component, and we all talk about the millennials generation. One aspect of the millennial generation is a green aspect of where they live, they play, and they work, and we have that on the office space. Now it's available, and I think Arthaland has made a big decision to move exclusively into green building construction. Early mover advantage will pay off, and I'm confident that the offering on the market will be successful. But back to the
Profile
profile
of the tenants.
The tenants are, as I said, MNC. They are companies who employ a very diverse population, a lot of millennials, but also it's not exclusively the green aspect of a building. Location is still important, the price is important, and also the technical spec of the building. It's still, I would say, one of the 4 criteria combined makes the profile of the tenant choosing. Everything being equal, if it's green, they will go to a green building.
Why is that, to break it down in other details? Like, what else do they look forward to besides environmental concerns? It's really, of course, even how they operate their businesses, like savings on operational costs.
Correct, saving on the CUSA, on the OPEX. It's also the maintenance of the building, because ultimately leases are signed for quite a long time, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. We all know that when we move to a new building, it's a new one, but is the owner of the building going to remain the manager, if he has built green, of this building, and continue to invest to maintain the high quality with all the element that was mentioned before. It's waste management, it's reduce cost of electricity, energy modeling, all the green component of a building that should be sustained for the duration of a tenant life in a building.
And these are all being considered by
Absolutely.
tenants already.
Yes.
How about those, though, multinational companies that are actually mandated? Because you said earlier some are really very personal choices, especially when it comes to management. It's very personal. However, from a global perspective, it's now mandated to
Correct.
be in green buildings.
It's part of every international board recommendation. It's part of the CSR, corporate social responsibility. It's the location they're operating in, and it's also the well-being of the employees, which is as important as the brick and mortars. It's also how the individual talent, individual employees live, work in these buildings.
Is there a big pool of these mandated multinational companies here in the Philippines?
Growing. I would not say it's a big pool. Some statistics were released by an international group, I think it was 2 years ago. 65% of international multinational will prefer to move to a green building.
That's a good chunk, 65%.
Saying
Okay.
that, you need the availability, and we have to go back to location, price, and technical aspect of the building.
Okay, let's talk money. Are lease rates higher in green developments?
Let's put PESA aside for a second.
Okay.
If we compare from an international trend, we know that a green building in a right location will attract a premium. We estimate in Metro Manila, between 10 and 15%. If it's green and PESA today, because of the business profile of the Philippines with the BPOs, it would be between 20 and 25% premium.
Okay. All right.
There is a call for building green.
Speaking of a call, so I'm going to go the opposite direction. Are there vacancies? Because now you're saying a lot of companies are actually moving into green buildings. Are there still vacancies, the vacancy rates in the existing green buildings that we have, or green developments?
Lower than non-green.
Oh.
And today, if we take BGC and Makati, if my numbers are correct, I think we're talking about a vacancy of 4 to 6% in a green building. And it would be a 12 to 15% in a non-green building.
Oh, wow.
Comparable level of building, because green mean a lot of things for a lot
Yeah.
of developers. I mean, let's assume we're talking the Arthaland green building type.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
There you go. So again, the numbers are pretty much speaking for itself. And I see a lot of nods of approval and nice surprised faces in our audience. Thank you very much. We'll get back to Christophe in a bit. Now the spotlight's on Michael. Hi, Michael. Good afternoon. Again, Michael is the Chief Investment Officer of Sun Life Financial of Canada, Philippines.
I think for Sun Life being a multinational company, I think we're one of the first to embrace green and ESG. In fact, one of the biggest investments we did back in 2011 was to construct the building, the Sun Life Center here. And I think it's one of the first, if not the first here at Fort, to be LEED certified platinum. And the building is part of our portfolio. It backs the insurance liabilities. And I agree with Christophe that we command slightly higher rental rates. And it's part of our investing as part of the assets. And we've embraced that since back in 2011. And we also reap the benefits being in that building, working in a green building. Definitely we see the big change, better natural lighting, more sustainable in terms of lower electricity cost. We harvest the rainwater from our green roof to flush the toilets. In fact, there's even, as noted by our HR department, there's a lesser occurrence of sickness from our employees because the building injects fresh air.
Yeah.
From time to time. So it creates more openness, feeling of fresh air inside the building. So sustainability, more efficiency in terms of the workplace. And I think that helps a lot in the investment of Sun Life in terms of its portfolio, as well as investing in its employees. So, and right now, we're glad that we see a lot of these green bonds and ESG principles being embraced by issuers as well, because our North American office, in fact, has been encouraging us, at least not yet mandating
Not
us.
mandated, but
Encouraging, because we've been trying to push back, because if they're mandating us, then we won't be able to invest anymore, because there's not much outlets here in the Philippines.
Not yet.
Not yet,
Yeah.
both on credit and on equity.
Okay.
So definitely we welcome these green bonds. And in fact, we're one of those who are active investors in some of the green issuances in the past. And definitely there's scarcity value. There's more demand from it, and you see prices of these green bonds appreciate faster because of the fact that there's more demand, especially not only from foreign, but also from some of the local institutions, especially the religious institutions, education institutions. So there's been a conscious effort now to go and look at alternative and sustainable investing. We incorporate ESG principles in the way we conduct due diligence in our fundamental research.
whether or not it's mandated.
Yes, we in fact extend not only environment, we also look at the sustainability aspect of our investing principles in terms of how a company values diversity, how they look at the different employees, in terms of governance, how transparent the company is. Corporate governance is quite important for us, especially on the listed equity names that we invest in. So the ESG principles we've embraced significantly, and it's just that now that we would want to see more of these types of instruments in the market, that I think there's, I can speak on behalf of the investing public, definitely there's a lot of demand for these types of instruments.
Well, that seems like the timing is right then. And
There is a growing demand for green buildings and increasing interest in sustainability. But we noticed that most of that is from multinational or foreign companies. So my question is, do you see it gaining traction in local companies? And if not, what would it take to do so?
To be completely accurate, it's not only 100% foreign tenant or companies. It's a bit slower within the local tenants. I mean, either they build, and when we talk about local tenants, we have some big investors who are tenants themselves. They build for themselves. I mean, we come from a commercial point of view. There is increasing demand. There's not a lot of choices. I mean, there's very, and if Ed would back me up, how many Verde building are on the certification? I think it's 42 or something? About close to 15. Okay.
50.
50. The president of Arthaland is the cost of construction. And in fact, again, it's not that more expensive to build green. And I think the premium for an office on the rent compensate this additional cost. I think there is a bit of a myth that needs to be broken down, and also more companies building green mean more product will be available at a lower cost, because also there's a scarcity of green product, mostly imported from abroad. This means additional costs, currency, exchange, etc. Which means the construction piece should be viewed as an investment which will be built in a return for the life of the building.
Thank you for that, Christophe. Ashley, you were nodding in approval. You agree this is also what happened in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question because what we've also experienced in Hong Kong was it is largely driven by the MNCs, and that's absolutely true as well here. Do things in all their different offices and markets to help achieve those global targets. So therefore, the pressure on the landlords. But also, we have seen, especially in the last few years, an uptick from the local or domestic companies, and I think that's totally aligned with just, again, the growth of ESG in the market. There's increasingly higher regulations, and it's compulsory to report on ESG now if you're listed on the stock exchange. So all these factors come in and are basically helping the domestic companies also realize that they'll have to look at where their offices are and things like that. It's a trend that's not slowing down at all.
Today we've heard how important sustainable financing is for sustainable development. And we've also heard how important sustainable development is for the environment in general because of the impact of real estate development to the world, right? And I think that while Arthaland is one of the first, we hope that we won't be the last. We want to be, we want to lead the way, but we also want others to follow, because this is more than just about Arthaland. This is about the world. And if we all work together towards sustainability, we can make a difference. And I'd like to thank Ashley for speaking today. I'd like to thank Christophe. I'd like to thank Mike. I'd like to thank our joint lead underwriters, BDO, CAP, and ING. And everyone here today in the room for listening to what we have to say about sustainability. And thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy the evening.